In places like Swindon and Trowbridge, everything looked calm. Life moved like normal, but behind that calm, a serious drug gang was at work, running one of the biggest cocaine operations the Southwest had ever seen. From 2016 to 2020, over 70 kilos of cocaine were pushed through Wiltshire. The drugs moved inside cars, delivered by drivers, while everything was planned through secret phone messages. The two men behind it, brothers Warren and Kelroy Allison. They didn't need to post up on corners, they ran things from a distance. Trusted drivers moved the product, encrypted phones kept the talks private. The workers took the risk, the brothers took the money. Quick one before we start, this ain't about glorifying drug life or the flashy image that comes with it. We're here to strip it down, expose the real moves, and break down how the Allison brothers built one of the Southwest's biggest cocaine networks, right under everybody's nose. This is Ends Unshanked, raw, unfiltered, no cap. If you're feeling the breakdown, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real stories. Let's get into it. Warren made sure people saw his wealth, flash cars, designer gear, but few knew where the money really came from. The gang blended into everyday life, using houses, roads, and regular people that didn't stand out. Things only started to shift when neighbors noticed that something didn't feel right. That's when the police started watching closer, and when they did, everything started to unravel. Operation Yelm kicked off, but when officers finally moved in, what they found was way bigger than a street gang. This was a full network, hiding right in front of everyone. Warren Allison wasn't the type to lay low. He lived loud. Lamborghinis, Mercedes C63 AMGs, Audis speeding through Wiltshire like no one could touch him. His money was on display. That was the whole point. Show power, show status, show success. But behind the fast cars and designer clothes sat something far more dangerous. Warren wasn't just showing off, he was washing power. Together with his older brother Kelroy, they built a multi-county operation that pumped tens of millions worth of cocaine across the Southwest for almost 5 years. They didn't move like street hustlers, they ran it like CEOs. Everything was tight, messages locked down, movements calculated. They used EncroChat and Sky ECC to talk to Albanian suppliers, move stock, and handle logistics, never touching the drugs themselves. The cocaine came in bulk, broken down, and handed off to trusted drivers and mid-level dealers. It was a well-oiled machine running deep beneath small-town Britain. Their system wasn't just smart, it was built to grow, like a franchise. They slotted people in as others dropped out, always keeping things moving and staying under the radar. They didn't just play the game, they played people too. Debts, favors, desperation, all used to keep loyalty locked in. Violence wasn't their tool, control was. They controlled with money, with access, with the look of success. On the surface, they looked like two self-made men living large. But underneath, they were running a cold, calculated machine built on secrets and manipulation. For nearly 5 years, that machine moved freely, hidden by confidence, encrypted tech, and the belief that they were too slick to ever get caught. Behind the polished front was a network built tight. Every person was picked, not just for what they could do, but for how easily they could be replaced if needed. This wasn't your usual street corner crew, it was a system, smooth, managed, everyone had a role, but no one was safe. At the center stood Richard Cowell, a 57-year-old from Swindon who became their most trusted courier. His job was simple, move huge loads of cocaine and cash across regions while staying invisible. He drove modified cars with hidden stash, spots made to beat police searches. He used EncroChat with the handle South Kangaroo. In court, he admitted he didn't just work for the Allisons, but also for other crime groups. He was the quiet engine, smiling, driving, boot full of secrets. Then came Portia Densley, not just Warren's girlfriend, she was the money brain. From Melksham, she kept the cash flowing. She handled collections, made transfers on Warren's say-so, and kept the biggest risk, money stable. Without her, the whole thing could have crashed. Down the line was family too. Anthony Burke, Warren's cousin, held things down in Bristol. In November 2020, police hit his flat and found 4 kilos of cocaine stashed inside a supermarket bag. That single drop, worth nearly £400,000, connected him straight to the core of the operation. But the big weight didn't sit with the couriers. It came from higher up. Albanians, Lydian Hoxha and Peter Pratap brought in the large shipments. They weren't just suppliers, they controlled the product pipeline. Another key player, Enid Aliko, supplied the encrypted Sky ECC devices and kept the connection alive between the Allisons and their overseas suppliers.
Altogether, they built a supply line that crossed borders, slid into communities, and shifted millions. One stash, one move, one message at a time.
Like most modern gangs, the Allison crew didn't mess with alleyway whispers or cheap burner phones. They moved smarter. Their whole setup ran on encrypted tech, first EncroChat, then Sky ECC. These platforms gave them exactly what they wanted: invisibility. Behind layers of digital security, they mapped out shipments, sent orders, and settled beefs. No fear of anyone listening in. Names weren't used, just handles like South Kangaroo and Legal Master. The real world had real names. The criminal world had usernames. Messages came in and disappeared in seconds. For a while, it worked smooth. The encrypted phones were sold as untraceable, military grade. The Allisons thought they were untouchable. Law enforcement couldn't touch what they couldn't see. But in June 2020, everything flipped. French police cracked EncroChat wide open. It was a global hit. Suddenly, all those private messages were sitting in police hands across Europe. Panic hit the streets. The phones that once protected criminals now exposed them. The Allison brothers were wide open. Messages they thought were lost could now be tracked, traced, and pinned to names. And they didn't even know that Wiltshire's serious organized crime unit had already been watching. With help from the National Crime Agency, officers dug into the hacked data. They pulled thousands of chats, voice notes, and GPS locations. The more they looked, the more patterns they found. Routes, dates, contacts. The very technology that gave the Allisons power left behind a trail. Once decoded, it laid out the full size of their operation. One message at a time, one contact at a time. There was no big movie style takedown, no helicopters, no midnight raids. This was patient work, quiet surveillance, careful tracking. The noose just kept tightening. Wiltshire police followed cars, watched homes, tracked couriers. They saw the cash flow. They mapped who met who and when. But in the end, what exposed them most was the flash. Warren's obsession with expensive cars made people talk. In towns like Swindon, Lamborghinis stand out. Men without real jobs don't usually flex supercars. People started whispering. Police listened. Then came the final move. On 3 November 2020, the police caught a key drop. Surveillance teams watched 4 kilos of cocaine get handed to Anthony Burke at Ronay Walk in Bristol. They waited. Once the handover was done, they moved in. Burke was grabbed on the spot. Inside his flat, the coke was stashed inside a supermarket bag. Just one quiet drop in a much bigger operation. That was the floodgate. After that, raids kicked off across Wiltshire and Bristol. Phones were seized, drug ledgers were found, cars with hidden compartments were uncovered. The evidence went all the way back to 2016. Years of messages, transactions and delivery routes were sitting there, waiting. Some like Lydian Hawkshaw and Pidger Pisha tried to run. They didn't get far. Extradition orders dragged them back. Others stayed behind, thinking they could lie their way out, claiming they were just selling fake clothes. But the police weren't buying it. Neither was the jury. Everything came to a head at Winchester Crown Court. Years of undercover work finally met hard courtroom facts. The case against Warren, Kelroy and 6 others played out over 12 long weeks. Every day the court peeled back another layer of the empire that had pumped cocaine into the southwest for nearly 5 years. Prosecutors laid it out clean. Over 70 kilos of high-grade coke moved across counties. Encrypted phones controlled every move. Couriers drove specially modified cars, hiding the gear. Warren and Kelroy stood at the top. Cool, calm, no remorse. The defense tried to spin a wild story. They said the messages weren't about drugs. They claimed the weights and drops were about fake designer clothes. A bootleg fashion hustle, that's what they called it. The jury wasn't fooled. Prosecutors hit back with hard proof. Footage showing drug drops in Bristol. Drug ledgers pulled from Kelroy's phone dating back to 2016. Bank records showing money being moved around under Portia Densley's control. Her being Warren's girlfriend didn't save her. She was deep in it, managing tens of thousands in cash, running collections, washing drug money, while keeping up the image of a normal life in Melksham. Then came the Albanians. The prosecution showed how Lydian Hawkshaw and Pidger Pisha supplied big loads of coke, all handled through encrypted phones and secret codes. When the police caught Anthony Burke with 4 kilos, that led them straight back to the suppliers. Hawkshaw and Pesca tried to flee but got caught, dragged back and faced justice. Another one, Enid Aliko, was the key middleman. He provided the encrypted devices and kept the line open between the Allisons and the Albanian pipeline. Ini Dalako was the link man. He provided the encrypted Sky EC phones that kept the Wiltshire crew talking safely with their Albanian suppliers. Bit by bit, the prosecution broke down the defense. This wasn't about knockoff clothes. This was cocaine, cut, packed, and moved with clinical precision. The jury saw straight through it. It was a slick machine, built to feed off people's addiction, fear, and silence. All the lies, the designer cover stories, the weak claims of selling clothes collapsed under solid evidence and sharp prosecution. On 6 February 2025, the sentences dropped. Warren Allison, the boss, got 23 years for 2 counts of conspiracy to supply cocaine. His brother Kelroy took 16.5 years. Richard Cowell, the 57-year-old courier who ran for several gangs, was jailed for 9 years. Portia Densley, the money mover, fixer and right-hand woman, got 8 years. Anthony Burke, caught with £400,000 worth of cocaine, also got 8 years. On the supply side, Lydian Hoxha was handed 7 years and 4 months. Pajata Pisha received 6 years and 8 months. Ini Daliko, who kept the encrypted phones flowing, was sentenced to 4 years. In total, the 8 of them stacked up 82 years behind bars, a sentence that didn't just match the size of the operation, but the damage it caused to entire communities. But taking down the Allisons wasn't just shutting down one gang, it opened the door to something much bigger. Operation Yelm started small, just whispers, suspicions, and quiet surveillance. But once the evidence piled up, it exposed something much deeper. This wasn't a local crew, this was a gateway into a national and international drug web. The information gathered didn't stop at 8 arrests, it revealed connections, trade routes, and routines that helped police disrupt other major crime groups across the UK. Some of these groups were tied directly to the Allisons, others shared the same suppliers, tech or money laundering routes. The encrypted phones the police seized held conversations that stretched way past Wiltshire, linking small-town UK to major drug corridors running through Europe. What started in quiet places like Swindon and Trowbridge turned into a bigger war against the encrypted underworld, where drugs, guns, and dirty money moved fast, hidden by technology and silence. But while the police scored a big win, the damage to the community was already done. For years, these towns unknowingly became key pieces in a massive drug machine. Safe houses, drop spots, money fronts, all sitting right there, hidden in plain sight. The case exposed an ugly truth. Organized crime doesn't need violence to survive. It only needs people to stay quiet, to ignore what's happening around them. That's why Wiltshire was perfect for them. Low attention, high trust, a place where a Lamborghini might turn heads, but not enough to trigger real questions, at least not at first. After the arrest, Wiltshire Police and the National Crime Agency warned people to stay sharp. Strange money, odd behavior, people moving funny at weird hours. These small signs can point to much bigger things, because if it could happen here, on these streets, in these towns, it can happen anywhere. The fall of the Allisons wasn't just a bust, it was a wake-up call. Now the encrypted phones are silent, the crew is gone, but the warning remains loud. Serious organized crime doesn't wait for permission, it only needs time.